Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies, and this is Cipher Writing from the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry by Albert G. Mackey. Cipher Writing, cryptography, or the act of writing in cipher so as to conceal the meaning of what is written from all except those who possess the key, may be traced to remote antiquity. De la Guillitere attributes its origin to the Spartans, and Polybius says that more than 2,000 years ago, Aeneas Tacitus had collected more than 20 different kinds of cipher, which were then in use. Kings and generals communicated their messages to officers in distant provinces by means of a preconcerted cipher, and the system has always been employed wherever there was a desire or a necessity to conceal from all but those who were entitled to the knowledge the meaning of a written document. The Druids, who were not permitted by the rules of their order to commit any part of their ritual to ordinary writing, preserved the memory of it by the use of the letters of the Greek alphabet. The Kabbalists conceal many words by writing them backwards, a method which is still pursued by the French Masons. The old alchemists also made use of cipher writing in order to conceal those processes the knowledge of which was intended only for the adepts. Thus, Roger Bacon, who discovered the composition of gunpowder, is said to have concealed the names of the ingredients under a cipher made by a transposition of the letters. Cornelius Agrippa tells us, in his occult philosophy, that the ancients accounted it unlawful to write the mysteries of God with those characters with which profane and vulgar things were written. And he cites Porphyry as saying that the ancients desired to conceal God and divine virtues by sensible figures which were visible, yet signified invisible things, and therefore derived their great mysteries in sacred letters, and explained them by symbolical representations. Porphyry here undoubtedly referred to the invention and use of hieroglyphics by the Egyptian priests, but these hieroglyphic characters were in fact nothing else but a form of cipher intended to conceal their instructions from the uninitiated profane. Peter Apenas, an astrological writer of the 13th century, gives us some of the old ciphers which were used by the Kabbalists, and among others one alphabet called the Passing Over the River, which is referred to in some of the high degrees of Masonry. But we obtained from Agrippa one alphabet in cipher which is of interest to Masons, and which he says was once in great esteem among the Kabbalists, but which has now, he adds, become so common as to be placed among profane things. He describes the cipher as follows. The 27 characters, including the finals, of the Hebrew alphabet were divided into 3 classes of 9 each, and these were distributed into 9 squares, made by the intersection of 2 horizontal and 2 vertical lines, forming the following figure. In each of these compartments, 3 letters were placed, as, for instance, in the first compartment, the first, 10th, and 19th letters of the alphabet. In the second compartment, the second, 11th, and 12th, and so on. The 3 letters in each compartment were designated from each other by dots or accents. Thus, the first compartment, or thus, represented the first letter, or thus. The same compartment with a dot, thus, represented the 10th letter, or thus. Or with 2 dots, thus. It represented the 19th letter, or thus. And so with the other compartments, the 9th or last representing the 9th, 18th, and 27th letters, thus, accordingly as it was figured thus, without a dot in the center or with 1 or 2. About the middle of the last century, the French Masons adopted a cipher similar to this principle, but varied in the details, among which was the addition of 4 compartments, made by the oblique intersection of 2 lines in the form of a St. Andrew's cross. The cipher was never officially adopted by the Masons of any other country, but was at one time assumed by the American Royal Arch, although it is now becoming obsolete there It is, however, still recognized in all the tuyers of the French. It has become so common as to be placed, as Agrippa said, of the original scheme, among profane things. Its use would certainly no longer subserve any purpose of concealment. Rockwell openly printed it in his I'm Reason of Georgia, and it is often used by those who are not initiated as a means of amusement. There is, therefore, really no recognized cipher in use in ancient craft masonry. Brown and Finch, who printed rituals intended only for the use of masons and not as expositions, invented ciphers for their own use and supplied their initiated readers with the key. Without a key, their works are unintelligible except by the art of the decipherer. Although not used in symbolic masonry, the cipher is common in the higher degrees, of which there is scarcely one which has not its peculiar cipher. But for the purposes of concealment, the cipher is no longer of any practical use. The art of deciphering has been brought to so great a state of perfection that there is no cipher so complicated as to bid defiance for many hours to the penetrating skill of the experienced decipherer. Hence, the cipher has gone out of use in masonry, as it has among diplomats, who are compelled to communicate with their respective countries by methods more secret than any that can be supplied by a dispatch written in cipher. Edgar A. Poe has justly said, in his story of the Golden Bug, that it may well be doubted whether human ingenuity can construct an enigma of the kind which human ingenuity may not, by proper application, resolve. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.